Tower Defense Simulator is known for its extensive grinding, sometimes taking weeks just to get a single crate, and then taking years to get really high levels. Have you ever wished that you could AFK in Tower Defense Simulator? You could leave a game running all by itself while you went downstairs to go eat, for example? Maybe while you were at school? Would it be possible to beat Tower Defense Simulator while doing absolutely nothing? Well, today I'm gonna be answering that question, and I have just the right idea to do it. Now, before we start, this video did take a while to make. It took a few hours of trial and error, and I had to record this across a span of 2 days, meaning I couldn't upload yesterday, so it'd be very appreciated if you could leave a like. And without further ado, let's begin. If you look at the top left of my screen, you may notice I have a little tool. This tool is called a macro. If I press a key on my keyboard, it'll start recording every single input that I do. For example, if I press record and then I jump, then I can play back the recording and it'll do the exact same thing that it did in jump. This was going to be important because there was no way I was going to beat Tower Defense Simulator if the game didn't know how to play itself. My idea was to play Tower Defense Simulator as I normally would, by speedrunning Molten Mode and recording the inputs, and then just joining the map and playing them all back. However, a big problem emerged right off the bat. I was unable to turn my camera. If I tried to turn my camera, this would happen. The camera would just glitch out and barely end up turning at all. And the problem with this was, if I were to turn my camera around in a normal game, and then my macro tried to do that after, then all of the clicks it would be doing afterwards would be clicks that it thinks are in the right spot when it hasn't even turned its camera. It would just be clicking all over randomly and getting me nowhere. I'd just end up losing. So my idea was to use the arrow keys on your keyboard. The arrow keys can still rotate your camera, except it wouldn't glitch out. With this in mind, I decided to go for my first Molten run. Now I must warn you, by no means am I a professional speedrunner, so I obviously didn't speedrun the most optimal way, but I did end up doing a speedrun on winter bridges with this loadout. Once I loaded in, I hit F8, which was the key that I set to record, and you could see at the top left, the macro is showing that it is indeed recording my inputs. Now, it was very important for me to remember not to move my camera, at least using the mouse. I dragged my mouse up and clicked Molten Mode, and then I started playing. I placed down 2 gladiators at the start. This was going to be a speedrun after all. My initial idea was to try and make it a good way of grinding, so this is how I beat Molten Mode my first time around. With 2 gladiators near the entrance, I was able to spawn kill all the early waves, so while that was happening, I was working on farming. I got a few farms up, and then I was gonna need another gladiator for the speedies that were coming out. Unfortunately, the extra gladiator wasn't a great idea, and I wasn't able to take down all the speedies, leaking one and causing me to waste a bunch of time, so now I had to wait for the wave to end. That wasn't too bad. I would skip, and the macro would do the same thing anyways once it played back. So, no biggie, it was just one wave. For the boss, I had gotten a level 4 gladiator and used its ability. The gladiator does a ton of damage, and I was luckily able to take down that boss without any problems. And I should mention, I was farming in this specific way because I was gonna place a DJ, and I wanted the DJ to be able to see all of the farms. Then again, it was time for more bosses, so I just used the gladiator's ability, and I took both of them down. The gladiator has pierce, so the fact that there were 2 didn't really make it that much more difficult. I then also noticed I had a level 2 farm the whole time that I didn't upgrade to level 3, which is kind of a stupid mistake, but oh well, doesn't matter. The goal wasn't to do a perfect Molten speedrun, it was just to prove that it was possible to do it while AFK, using a macro. I placed the DJ I said I would earlier, and then I upgraded it to level 3. The Necromancer was coming soon, so I did get a max gladiator. I used all of their abilities and was able to insta-kill the Necromancer before it even had a chance to load its animation. From here, it was just farming. I needed to get all my farms to max level and some extra gladiators so that I could take down the slow boss as fast as possible. But then I finished that and got a max level DJ. I'd also gotten a commander because I wanted to use the commander's ability along with the gladiators to be able to kill the boss faster, but I used the ability kinda late, so I probably didn't need it. I placed down a few extra gladiators at the beginning because since it's a speedrun, I need to kill all the enemies as fast as possible. I got all 3 of my commanders, and then it was time to start working on accelerators. The accelerators would be my main damage that would be taking down the Molten boss. I then started getting them in this weird corner at the bottom, but trust me, it's a very good spot, because the Molten boss's stomp won't quite reach these accelerators, so I'll be able to do more damage in a shorter period of time since they won't be stunned at all. And luckily in that area you can stack them, so I ended up getting a grand total of 5 max level accelerators. For the entire rest of the run, it was just me placing down accelerators. I only had 3 more to place, so I placed them in a different spot because I didn't want to risk placing them any closer to the entrance and having there be a chance of the Molten boss stunning them when he spawns. I had sold all my farms a wave early cause the next wave would go by so quick I pretty much wouldn't have enough time. And then I placed as many gladiators as I could and I started chaining my commanders. The accelerators locked onto the Molten boss quite early, and in combination with so many gladiators, I was able to just barely beat the mode under 12 minutes. I had hit F8 again so the recording was done, and now it was time to play the macro. I had hit Ctrl, Shift, and P because that was the key that played my recording, and it voted for Molten, and right as it was about to place a gladiator, it clicked in the wrong spot. And then in the wrong spot again. It did not place the gladiators at all. Then it moved my character, but there were no gladiators already. This run was not going according to plan. Every single input here would rely on me speedrunning the game. Now that I was not going fast, every single thing I placed down I wouldn't have enough money for. And it would just be in the wrong spot in general. Something went wrong. And I didn't know what. I decided to go into one more game to check if it wasn't a bug, and to my disappointment, when the macro was about to place the gladiators, it was not going to place them in the right spot, so I decided to manually move my avatar to try and get good placements, but this wasn't going to work because every single input I did in the past game was pixel perfect. Even if in this game I missed an upgrade by a pixel because I just moved my character slightly off, then it would screw up the whole run ahead of it, because I would either not have enough money or we wouldn't be going fast enough. This wasn't it. I had to figure out what the problem was. In order to do this, I opened my video editor. I was gonna have to compare the two clips, the game that I did, and then the way the macro played. I enlarged the screen, and then I was looking at the two pieces of footage. The one up top would be the game with the macro, the one below would be the game that I played. So every time I moved the clip on top, I would be looking at the game that I did, and every time I put the clip on top back, I would be looking at the game the macro did. I zoomed both of them in, and looking at a comparison, the cursor didn't move, so the mouse tracking was good. The problem was with the arrow keys. The duration that I held the arrow key for in my normal run was a little bit longer than the duration that the macro held it for, which ended up orienting my camera the wrong way. I was just able to tell because of the difference the entrance was pointed. Now I knew if I wanted to beat this, I was not even allowed to turn my camera. But I did have an idea for zooming out. The I and O keys. Every time you press one of them, they'll either zoom your camera out or zoom your camera in. So it was time for run number 2. I had found winter bridges, and once I spawned in, I zoomed out my camera, and luckily for me, I still had all the area available to me that I did in my first run. This time I was not going to make a stupid mistake of letting a speedy leak, so I upgraded a gladiator because it'd just be able to one-shot the speedies. It did 3 damage, and the speedies had 3 health. I was still able to farm in the same spots, which was amazing, so it really did look like my run was going to go according to plan. Now, as I said, I'm no Molten speedrunner, and this just goes to show that I'm pretty bad at it, because I just leaked an entire boss, and also with a good amount of health, which was kind of embarrassing because that's a time loss. I'm trying to speedrun, but I brushed it off and kept playing. It wasn't really gonna matter. And then I missed another boss, which was already kinda stupid. With 2 gladiators and I still miss a boss. Either way, enough of my problems. I get another gladiator, I keep farming, I get a DJ, I spam my gladiators, and then I use my keys to zoom out to be able to place the accelerators. I'm still able to get 5 accelerators there, and then 3 more in the same spot that I got them last time. Now all that was left to do was to finish off wave 40, which I did without a problem. This run was a little bit slower at 12 minutes and 15 seconds, but then again, that didn't really matter. When I went into the lobby, I decided to test if they had a set amount that they move the camera every time you press them. I zoomed out and placed my cursor at the intersection of 2 tiles. I pressed the keys and ended the recording. Then when playing it back though, I had discovered something horrible. The mouse didn't end up in the same spot. Even if it was just by a bit, some of my placements were indeed pixel perfect, and if I had missed them in the run, then it just wouldn't place my tower, and it was gonna mess up the whole thing. I should have probably tested this earlier, but now I had wasted my time with another run, finding out that the keys weren't gonna work. This only left me with one last way of doing it, and that was without moving my camera at all. But then another problem emerged, and that was with timing. If I couldn't move my camera, I couldn't see the start, and I couldn't get my gladiators up front, meaning I couldn't speedrun. The biggest problem with that is mysteries. When you have a wave of mysteries, if you kill all of the mysteries, the wave will skip. But imagine while I'm recording, I get really good RNG, and I don't get a single boss, and the wave skips on its own. But then when I'm playing the game back, I get a boss and one mystery leaks. Because I have not killed the mystery, the game will stay on that wave, and the macro, it's just gonna keep playing as if the wave has skipped. This was gonna mess up my whole timing, and I was gonna end up losing because of that. I needed a plan to have every single wave start at the exact same time, so that no matter my RNG, my game would be played the same. And then an idea struck me. I wouldn't be able to speedrun, but if it spawned me on a map where I was further back on the track, I could get my defense at the back, and then, because the skip button would appear before the enemies had time to reach my defense, I would be able to skip the waves always at the exact same time. I decided that the map for this would be wrecked battlefields, because when it spawned you in, it spawned you facing towards the back. You were on the middle island, meaning that the whole first turn of the map was inaccessible by your towers. I started off with a golden soldier and a farm, and if you look here, the skip button appeared before the enemies had time to reach the golden soldier, meaning I was able to skip the wave, and when the macro was playing it back, it would also skip the wave at the exact same time, and all of the timings in the entire run will always be lined up across the two games. For this round of Molten, I just kept farming at the back. For this early game, I wasn't going for speed, so I decided to have good farming at the back here, and that's exactly what I did. I didn't need to upgrade my soldier all the way up until wave 6, and then once I got more money on wave 7, I upgraded the soldier yet again. Then it was just more and more farming until I got all 8 of my level 3 farms. Because it was wave 10, it was the boss wave, so I was gonna need to upgrade a soldier to do more damage and be able to kill the boss, which is just what I did. I decided that that level of soldier was fine for now, so I just got a maxed farm, but ultimately decided to upgrade the soldier to max level anyways, because a wave with 2 bosses was coming up soon, as well as hiddens, so I wanted to take them all down without a problem. After some more max farms, I saw that the enemies did get quite far in the soldier's range, so I got a little nervous and got a second golden soldier, which I also upgraded to max, and then it was back to farming. Once I finished farming, it was time for my DJ. I wanted a discount for everything I was gonna get from now on. I had sold my soldier because I didn't really need it, since now all my defense would be accelerators, and it's a good thing that I got it because it was just barely able to kill those Moltens that leaked past my soldiers. I got my 3 commanders prepared because I just wanted to have them for later, and now I was just spamming more and more accelerators. One after another, I placed them all down, and before I knew it, all 8 of them were placed down in these locations, and then I also maxed my commanders. I sold my farms extra early because I couldn't really place that many towers, and I placed a few golden soldiers further back. I didn't think I was really gonna need them, but might as well. I kept chaining commanders, and in the case that they'd be stunned when the macro was playing it back, I just kept spamming their abilities, even though clearly I couldn't use them. And with that, my recording was finished, and it was time to test and see if this was good enough to beat Molten entirely on its own. What you're watching right now is me not doing anything. I'm not touching my keyboard, I'm not using my mouse. The game is playing entirely on its own. It places the golden soldier in the right spot. It places the farm in the right spot. And for the first time now, it seemed like it was going to happen. After hours of effort, Tower Defense Simulator was about to be beaten, completely AFK. Look at this. The game is just playing itself. I'm not even touching my mouse or keyboard, and look at that. The mouse is moving. You can even see my hand. I'm holding my phone with the other hand. This is crazy. It's actually working. It all seemed really good. It was getting the upgrades and placing towers in the right spot, and it was even skipping on time. But then something scary happened. The macro tried to upgrade the accelerator a little bit early. This was a bad sign. This meant that the timing was off, and I only had a hope now that the rest of the game the macro would still be able to follow through with all of its movements. And it especially got scary when it missed the skip. This now meant my timing was going to be way off. The macro would now try to skip when there's no skip option, or it'll skip completely at a different time. I didn't know if I was going to have enough money for my upgrades, and one of my accelerators was already level 4, and the macro was never going to upgrade it to level 5 because I never did that in my own run, since in my own run I did get a level 5. But that wasn't going to stop me. I kept playing and just hoping that everything would go according to plan. And here the macro tried to skip the wave, but it ended up clicking off of the accelerator, and when it tried to upgrade it, there was just nothing there. I was going to lose out on a lot of DPS, but still, I was just hoping that the accelerators it would be able to place down would be enough for the Molten boss. And here's how the rest of the run went. It was a success. I had just beaten Molten Mode, doing absolutely nothing, just standing there. I could now have a game of Molten Mode running while I was at the store, while I was eating dinner, or while I was at school. And the thing is, this could also probably work on Fallen. You just have to hope that your timing doesn't mess up, since Fallen is a lot harder and doesn't give you as much lenience. But there you have it, Molten Mode beaten completely AFK. I'm gonna have to edit this one for a while, so if you enjoyed, make sure to like. I really need something to make up for all the time I spent on this. Okay, bye.